Hey everybody, Chris here, and now we go into the very first chapter of DC Universe Rebirth, Lost. And this chapter is drawn by Gary Frank and Ethan Von Sciver, and of course this entire book is written by Geoff Johns. I do have some pieces of artwork to show you guys from this chapter. Here's one page, here's another page, and then we will get into the final page in a moment. But the book opens up with somebody talking about their grandfather's or their great-grandfather's watch. And the more they're talking about it, the more they're saying, I've been forgotten, something's been forgotten. And we're getting all this internal dialogue. And then we get to the Batcave with Batman, who's doing some research and finding out that there's more than one Joker. And there's a bit of a spoiler here for Justice League, if you haven't read Justice League, but you were supposed to read Justice League and Superman 52 before this book. But Batman finds out in Justice League 50 that there are 3 Jokers. So now Batman is trying to figure out what that means. And then somebody makes a return. Wally West. And this is not the Wally West from the New 52. This is the Wally West from the original DC Universe, with all the memories that you and I have pre-Flashpoint, even including Flashpoint. And he's trying to get back into the universe. He's been trapped outside the universe for the entirety of the New 52 until the events in Justice League during the Darkseid War, and when the door slightly cracked open and he broke his way back into the DC Universe through the Speed Force. And now he's trying to find a way to warn everybody about what's coming. And in this chapter, we get a recap. If you don't know who Wally West is, let's pretend that you've not read a DC comic book. You've only read the New 52. Let's pretend that this is your very first DC comic book. This first chapter gives you the entire rundown of who Wally West is. And I don't mean a new version. I'm talking about the original backstory for Wally West. From the moment he met Barry Allen, the Flash, all the way through to when he became Kid Flash and became actual Flash as well. So for some reason he actually mentions that he's now younger again. Also, Crisis on Infinite Earths is mentioned. Barry coming back from the dead after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Basically, all the history is connected to Wally right now. And in this chapter, he's trying to reach out to Batman for help. And he mentions to Batman, the letter that you got from your father that Barry brought you, there's something in it. Ask Barry. And then he disappears back into the Speed Force, and he's falling through the Speed Force, and that's where we get the recap of his life. And we also find out that it wasn't Flashpoint's fault for the New 52 or the new DC Universe. Somebody, when Flashpoint was fixed, when Barry fixed the Flashpoint, as time and space was going back together, somebody, and we see a big hand reaching out through the universe, somebody changed it. Somebody did something, and that's what caused the change in the DC Universe. And this person is more powerful than anyone, and he is a threat. And Wally wants to warn everybody that this threat is coming. And in the end, he's just lost in the Speed Force, and that's just how it is. He just is now lost and just trying to find a way to get back to warn everyone, basically to get back to the universe. He doesn't even care if he if he dies. He just wants to make sure that he can warn somebody about what's coming first. And this was an amazing chapter, a wow, spectacular beginning to a really, really, really amazing adventure in this first chapter of DC Comic Universe Rebirth. Artwork is done gorgeously. Geoff Johns has done it again. In the first chapter alone, Geoff Johns has done it again. And you guys will see more as this book continues. And now I'm going to move on. We are going to move in, or you guys are going to move on to the next chapter, Legacy.
Hey guys, I'll be covering the chapter of Legacy, and with this chapter we get to see Wally continue to try to find people to grab him back to reality and out of the Speed Force. The first person he finds a connection to is Johnny Thunder, who is part of the JSA, so we get a little nod of the JSA. The next character was a member, and I'm guessing it was Saturn Girl, who is from the Legion of Superheroes, so we get to see her character. And then other Legacy characters that are going to spin off into other DC Rebirth titles, like Ryan Choi and Jaime Reyes. So Adam and Adam's protege and Blue Beetle's protege. So that's the big part of this issue, or of this part. And then we even get, you know, a little scene from Dr. Fate. So that was pretty interesting. That was part of the Blue Beetle scene. And we see even more Legacy characters. We see Damian Wayne. We have Jessica Cruz being a new Green Lantern. I wasn't sure who this character was. Guessing related to Aquaman. Maybe it was I don't know who it was actually. I think it was actually the Aqualad from right before the New 52, who was a very newer character from I think post Brightest Day or during Brightest Day. Pretty sure it's during Brightest Day. And then we have Pandora, who says, you know, remember all that despair? Well, we need hope in the world also. And that's the end of the Legacy chapter. And to give my quick overview, this was an interesting chapter to, you know, see characters we haven't seen in a while, like Johnny Thunder, and then also reference just different ideas of Legacy within the DC universe. Like Legacy, obviously JSA. When you think Legacy, you think JSA. You have Legion of Superheroes, which, you know, wasn't really explored too much in the New 52. And then we're having the proteges, which I really enjoyed, but not just proteges who are going to be like sidekick characters. You do have characters that are just like having their own new identity with like Green Lantern, and not being really a protege, but trying to find her own in the Green Lantern title. So there's a lot of interesting aspects of Legacy here, and again, the view of Dr. Fate was interesting, you know, relating to JSA, and then seeing Pandora, who's really kind of started this whole Flashpoint thing at the same time also. So glad to see her in this chapter too.
Hey guys, this is Brant with Chapter 3, titled Love. This chapter is, of course, also written by Jeff Johns, art by Ivan Rice, inks by Joe Prado and Ivan Rice, and colors by Hi-Fi. Now this particular chapter deals with relationships, both existing and missing from the pre-New 52. It starts out with Grail and her baby Darkseid, who is also her dad. It's kind of weird, but, you know, she's, you know, clutching onto the baby, and she's like, you know, I'm gonna love you finally and nurture you, and, you know, see you come into your own. And of course, all through this, Wally is narrating, and he's glimpsing into pieces of these things going on. He glimpses the death of Superman, which, if you haven't read Superman number 52, you should go read that, because it ties into this, and the loss that everybody's feeling through that, and the love that they have for this Superman, because nobody knows what's going on. And he's like, I don't know, something's happened to the Superman in this world. I don't know if he's dead, if he's hurt. Something is going on, and you can feel that. He also touches on lost relationships, lost loves that are missing from the pre-New 52, the pre-existing universe. He touches on Green Arrow and Black Canary, and how they both feel this lost, something is missing between them. They feel this connection when they see each other, even though they've never met. And he talks about how that's missing, and, you know, there is that deep love between those two characters that we as fans have been missing as well. Clark, from Lois and Clark, gets a visitor and a message saying things aren't as you think they are, because he mentions that he's from a parallel world, and he's told finally that, hey, this is not exactly what you think. And so now we start to see that he's going to get some revelation, which is cool. Aquaman and Mera. Aquaman drops to a knee and proposes to Mera on the spot, and then it just leaves it at that. So we've got that going on, and then finally, to wrap up this chapter, we have Wally come across his love, Linda Park, very young Linda Park, and he's like, if anybody, if I can be tethered to anybody to bring me back, to bring me back into this world and pull me from the Speed Force, it's got to be Linda. And he's like trying to reach out to her, and he's so happy because he hasn't seen her in such a long time, and he reaches out and he's like, it's me, it's Wally. And she's like, I don't know you. And it's like it rips his heart out, all that love that he has for her, and she doesn't even recognize him, and it rips his heart out, and it pulls him back, and he's feeling like all hope is lost at this point, because that love wasn't strong enough to go past this rewritten history. And that leads us right into the next chapter, the final chapter, Life.
This is Mike Spider Slayer reviewing Chapter 4 of DC Universe Rebirth, otherwise known as Life. The book is written by Geoff Johns. Artwork is done by Phil Jimenez and Gary Frank. In Chapter 4, otherwise known as Life, we get to see Barry Allen continue his way through the Speed Force. If he doesn't get out soon, he's going to be sucked up and be lost forever. In this particular part of the issue, we come across the New 52 Wally West. We get to learn a little bit about him. And as the chapter progresses further, we also run into Barry Allen. We learn on how such of a great hero that Barry Allen actually is, and how much he means to Wally. So in a desperate attempt, he reaches out to Barry Allen and he says, "You will remember me. You may not remember me now, but you're going to remember me one day." And we get to see Wally just tearing up and disintegrating right in front of Barry Allen. And in this part of the chapter, it becomes so emotional. And as he's disintegrating into the Speed Force, Barry finally remembers who he is, and he's like, "Wally!" And he winds up grabbing him and thrusting him out of the Speed Force. And this becomes a very, very emotional moment as Barry has saved Wally, and they give this huge hug, and it so tears at the heartstrings here, especially if you're a huge Wally and Barry fan. You know the history between these characters, and the book does a wonderful job at kind of refreshing it for its readers on the history and the relationship that they had with each other. And it was such a tearjerker. It was so enjoyable. At the very end of the chapter, we wind up going back to Batman, who sees the letter from Thomas Wayne, from his father. And at the actual end of this chapter, we wind up seeing this shiny object at the bottom of the Batcave. And Batman picks it out, and he winds up seeing that it is the Watchmen symbol. And so at the end, you're kind of like, what? What does the Watchmen have to do with this whole DC Rebirth thing? But if you read if you read before Watchmen, one of the series in there, you're going to know what has happened at the actual end of that series on how the DC Universe was actually created, the DC Universe New 52. So, very good chapter, excellent artwork, very emotional. It's going to make any type of Flash fan very happy, especially the Wally West fans.
Jay here with the Epilogue. This is of course written by Geoff Johns, with Gary Frank and Ivan Reyes on the pencils, Frank and Joe Prado on inks, Brad Anderson and Hi-Fi on the colors. The Epilogue really merges what's going on in Rebirth with Wally and the Watch to what was going on with the Watchmen, and before the Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan #4, where we get that special little thing about him trying to create new life by creating these little universes. So that's where it kind of connects to. You see the transition from Wally's voiceover to his voiceover, and it's the merger. It lets you know that he's the one that's behind everything.
It was an amazing one shot leading into the next chapter for DC Universe. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm really happy to see Wally back. The connections with Watchmen and all this other crazy stuff that's going on in the universe, which Jeff Johns claims will be going on for the next 2 or 3 years. Like, the explanation of this book will take 2 to 3 years to get to that end game. I'm really excited for this journey with the new DC Universe. Jeff Johns just did it again with this book. It was an amazing, enjoyable ride from start to end. The legacies, the relationships, all the things that we've lost with the New 52 are coming back finally. Slowly but surely things are fixing up, and it looks really great, and it definitely holds. This one shot sets up something amazing in the future when it comes to DC Comics, and I'm pumped to see where DC goes from here. This is an amazing book, and I have to give this book a 5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I recommend you guys check this book out. It is 80 plus pages long, but it is an enjoyment, and if you would like to get back into DC Comics, this is your jumping on point. This is the book you definitely need to grab. It is only $2.99, and it's 80 pages. There is no reason why you shouldn't try this out. And
to give my overall thoughts on the DC Rebirth book, it was amazing. It probably was one of the best books I've read in a really long time. It felt classic. It feels like this is something I will pick up at least once a year to read. It had everything that fans were asking for. It was kind of a love letter to fans, and honestly, it was a tearjerker. Seeing Wally West return, the great monologue from Jeff Johns, and describing Wally to the New 52 readers who don't really know much about him, really describing his history in-depthly. But then having that tearjerker moment for the people who do know who Wally West is, and, you know, been reading Flash for a really long time. So, pick this up. It's amazing. Get DC Rebirth. My mind was blown. And I felt so many emotions, so it was so great. And I'm glad that I wasn't spoiled for it, that I know, I know a lot of people did get spoiled for it, sadly. But definitely go read it. And it's only $2.99, so definitely worth the price tag. And it's a really good good read, and it's a lengthy read too, but it doesn't feel long. You just want more in the end. So definitely pick this up.
The rating I would give the chapter that I reviewed, Chapter 3, Love, is like a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was nearly perfect. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more exploration into some of the other lost relationships. I know we had limited time here, and they tried to touch on the most important ones. Maybe even the whole Wonder Woman Superman thing, how that's supposed to be different kind of thing. But overall, it was fantastic. I'm a very passionate person myself, so it connects with me on that level. So I really enjoyed that chapter, so 4.5. And overall for the book, I would give it like a 4.75. I thought it was a nearly perfect book. I love the way it came together. But that's my rating for the whole thing. This is so many implications, and I know some people are going to be a little upset about what happens overall with this book and what it entails. But for me,
overall, I love this issue. It had everything that I wanted from Rebirth. It brought back Wally West. But it didn't just bring back Wally West. It explained that, there were two Wally Wests. That they were just cousins. And I like that explanation because we already knew that it wasn't the same father as Wally West, which I really enjoyed. I like that they answered that and they squashed that theory there was going to be two Wally Wests. They're just cousins who happen to have the same name. It happens in families. So I really like that. I love the emotional connections that they made in this issue. I think they had more emotion in this one issue than they had in the whole 52 put together. It was fantastic. We got to see bonds being reformed with the couples, bonds being reformed with friendships, legacies being reborn. We saw so many things. But the best part for me came in the last chapter with Wally and Barry connecting, and it just is a heart ripper. Jeff Johns just grabbed you and was like, get over here with your heart, and he just played it so well, so excellent. If you know these characters, if you've read them, you know how much it feels. So I really loved it. Now the implications for this is huge. because you brought in the Watchmen. But it's even better than that because Wally West actually remembers everything that's happened. He told Barry, and it's unlocking Barry's memories. So who else are they going to tell? Who else's memories are going to be locked up? I'm looking forward to this, and I give it 5 stars. There's no doubt in my mind that everybody should be picking this up and talking about this book. DC has really stepped up their game, and they're back in it. Now I want to know yours in the comments below. Also, like this video, subscribe to Comic Frontline. Check out comicfrontline.com, the site, for all the latest previews, reviews, news, and interviews, along with fun, unique features with daily updates. And don't forget to like and follow Media Madness and Comic Frontline on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and download Frontline Live every week on iTunes for free.